Lindsay Ginger. Da, 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 da. Dun, 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 dun. Testing, testing, 1, 2. Looks good. Have you ever wanted to rig characters in Toon Boom Harmony, but the node view scares the crap out of you? Well, I'm hosting a mini workshop that might just be what you're looking for. My name is Tony Ross, and I'm the owner and creator of TonyTeach.com, where we specialize in taking programs that have a steep learning curve and teaching them in a way that's really comfortable for beginners and novices to catch on to. So, on Saturday, October 21st, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm hosting a 3-hour workshop where I'll show you how to rig a simple stick figure in Harmony Premium from scratch. This demo will go over working with the node view, using pegs, and basic parent-child rigging. In addition to this, I'll show you how you can save out a blank rig so you can attach your own artwork to it later. Now, this event is held online, but it is taught live, so you can ask questions during the demo as well as during the Q&A afterwards. Can't make it at that time? No worries. The workshop will be recorded and made available to all who signed up for the workshop. Though this workshop isn't free, it is actually cheaper than my hourly rate. So, this will be the first in a series of workshops, and I'll later be showing more complex things like working with deformers and even master controllers. But I actually want to start teaching people the very basics of working in Harmony Premium and how far you can go down the rabbit hole, which is creating your own animations. Seating is limited, so sign up today. Hope to see you there. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 4 of the 2D Animation Virtual Summit. Tony hasn't had coffee yet. So, yeah, welcome. So we have a lot scheduled for today. And in particular, our first person up is a good friend of mine, a mentor, and technically I consider her my teacher. So the part of this interview, you'll actually see me rigging or attempting to rig in front of my Jedi Master. Meanwhile, I'm playing Padawan Pookie. Anyway, I digress. So what I want to do is dive in a little early because I think I did not edit hers down. So going to at least try to get started on this. So give me 1 second, and we'll start up with Miss Lindsay Noller. Hey, this is Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, and I'm hanging out with my pal and very talented individual, Miss Lindsay Noller. Hey, Lindsay.
Hi. Nice to see you again, Tony.
Nice to see you again. So Lindsay and I think first met from me working with, we'll say Toon Boom fam, and we've been kind of chatting back and forth year after year, and she has blessed us with her presence in several of the summits. Thank you again for your time on that. And instead of me telling people who you are, I think the last count, we're almost up to 300 new people this year. So, yes. So tell those new people who you are and why you're here.
Hello, I'm Lindsay, and I love animation. I've been working in the industry for over a decade now. I started off in Vancouver, and I migrated to Montreal to work for Toon Boom, which is where we met, which was a very exciting job. I got to travel around the world and basically teach animation and how to rig. My specialty is in rigging. And I love it so much. I can't stop. So now I am an animation trainer. I teach, and I try to teach individuals. I teach a lot more productions. And I try to help people save time and love the process as much as I do.
coolness. So yeah, the I love and hate sending you stuff because I was like, I came up with this cool idea, and you'll go, "That's cool.
Yeah.
What is it you did the other day?" And I was like, I was so excited. I said, "Here's something I figured out," and you said, "Okay, put it in the render view." I was like, "Oh crap." It just broke. Dang it. He goes, yeah, use this instead. I'm like, okay, okay. So you're pretty much one of the people I want to be when I grow up. So it's like just kind of your knowledge of rigging is like why I keep you on speed dial and go, what would you do here? Why doesn't this work? So
I've run into every problem you can imagine.
awesome.
That's really the secret.
It's like see if we can break this. And
It's my
shout
favorite
out to
question.
shout out to Toon Boom on this. And again, it's not just because I do contract work for them, and it's not just because they're a sponsor. I've said this 5 million times. Look, they're big enough to be awesome, but they're small enough to listen. Um, and one of the things I love about the software is crashes are rare. Um, and there's maybe a small handful of bugs, but even then, it's like they've updated that part.
Yeah, and they've definitely come down because
Yeah,
the program used to crash a lot more, maybe like 7, 8 years ago when
yeah,
I first started. I think crashes were a lot more common, but now I rarely have a crash, which is really nice. So
yeah.
I agree.
So yeah, so to that other company who I'm pissed at that I edit my videos in that I'm about to leave. I was like, it's like I was trying to change the work area and it crashed every single time. I was just like, are you kidding me right now? It's like I wasn't doing anything complicated. I was trying to change the work area. And yeah, I think because of other softwares again that will remain nameless that I've worked in with animation, I'm so used to doing that nervous twitch of command save every 5 seconds. Um, but yeah, this is it's pretty sweet.
I'm actually working on a rig right now where it's so big. There's so many drawings. When I save, it takes about 45 seconds. And I have the same problem where I save almost after it's like muscle memory. My hand just control S, control S. And I'm getting stuck because I'm saving too much. And it's causing me to wait. That's the hardest part right now. Yeah. So I don't know if Toon Boom can fix that, but please make it save faster.
That would be awesome. I'm going on the opposite end. I'm always trying to find out what's the simplest looking rig I can make, or the simplest. Let me rephrase that. The simplest rig that may look more complicated is what I'm trying to do, especially when I look at a lot of the things online, like there's all these little black and white stick figure animations
Yeah.
that, and they're barely moving. There's lip sync and it's dialogue driven and stuff like that. But when I look at and we're chatting about this earlier, the whole thing between doing things just for fun versus you trying to make a profit or living off of it. But when I look at these really simple things that people are doing, and it's like, oh, they have 2 million followers. I'm like, okay, yeah, they put out this many per week. It's like, okay, let me not overcomplicate this. Like, how do I make it a really simple looking?
Yeah, I love that stuff because to me that's like do it yourself animation. And I think there's a huge trend of people really trying to learn how to animate, and like professional animation, there's a lot involved. There's a lot of extra details, but when you get to that, when you're at that entry level
Mhm.
of animation, especially when you get into like the stick figures, you're so bare bones, and it's like comes down to like this really sweet nuance with the lines almost. I'm not, and the story, like it's like that is the part that people are connecting to. It's not quite the visuals,
Okay.
but I just love it because it's like you're as that you can watch those progress, like when you look at something that's been made 2 years ago versus like the latest release, and you can see the progression of their learning animation. That to me is like the magic. That's what I like to look at when I find a YouTuber. I'm like, okay, what's the first video, where did this start? And you can see it, and I love it.
I never thought about it that way, and thank you.
Yeah.
It's like I love that phrase DIY. That's kind of okay.
You can see the progression in that. And like, if you look at Oddballs, to me, that's the ultimate. That was a project that Atomic Cartoons made for Netflix.
Uh-huh.
Came out, I think, last year. But I mean, that started online. What are you getting excited about? Can you stay here? Come on. What are you? Someone fell down the well. Mabel, hey, what's the matter? Do you want a treat? She just wants a treat. Oh, sorry. Got to interrupt the interview for Mabel.
No worries. Hey, Mabel.
Gonna go destroy that. What are they saying? Yeah, Oddball is such a great example of something that started off, and I truly believe that person just wanted to learn how to animate in the first days, and it just got uncontrollable.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
There was an animation years ago called Ninja, the little ninja. And this is, I think it was made in Flash, but it was like it was one of the first times that people online took advantage of, because I was showing my students, and again, this is like in early 2000s. So I was showing my students this, and I was like, this is in Flash. And they're like, that's in Flash? But they had taken JPEGs and like had these really cool painterly backgrounds. And then sometimes had a PNG. So it's like you're doing traditional animation. So you had the painted background, then you had the cell foreground, but then you just had the character moving around midway. And the production quality was so incredible. And they had everyone going, when is the next episode? When is the next episode? Oh, wow, I've got a segue for you. So, and it's like, the people who made this, and you'll see where I'm going with this. The people who were making it were talking about, they worked they were stunt actors. So sometimes, like in their off time, they would do that. And then, unfortunately, where they were, the weather was too good. So they spent most of their time surfing instead of working.
Oh, what a.
So speaking of not working and surfing, rumor has it you have a new hobby.
Yes.
Do you want to tell our audience what you've done?
My newest hobby is surfing in the Great Lakes here in the St. Lawrence River. We have 2 river waves. And it's something that I've always wanted to do. I've always surfed. Like when I travel, I find ways to surf. I'm not good at it. I just really enjoy being in the water and being free, I guess. Swimming, I just love that stuff. And I've always had that beach vibe. Let's say it's my core. And so, yeah, I get the beach. I could be a beach bum very easily. I try really hard not to be, but it's getting colder. And I was just telling you about my wetsuit, my newest wetsuit, which is 6 millimeters thick. And it's just very hard to get on and off, but it is so cool. I can go out in the water and I stay dry. I stay relatively dry. And I don't know where you want me to go with this. It's been the most challenging thing. It's the most challenging thing to learn because it's so hard.
But I still think it's fun. We were talking about earlier, the idea, which is going to tie into the book you were mentioning, the idea of doing something for fun or doing something creative or just to do it versus going, how do I monetize this? It was like, There's
no monetizing surfing. Well, there is, but I'm not there. I'm not. I don't think I'll ever be there. It's definitely the place where my money has been going. But it's the drain. But no, surfing's been really interesting because like I mentioned, there's 2 waves here. And the first time I did it, the way that the waves work here, it's not like when you picture surfing, you think you're swimming out in the ocean or wherever you are and you're catching a wave. But here it's super different. The wave doesn't move. So you actually have to, and it's in a river. So you have to swim out, catch the current. Then you have to do a 3-point turn, and then you have to back into the wave, and then you have to catch the wave, and then you can practice surfing. So the reason why I like to think of this in animation, it's kind of been helping me help other people, because it helps me remember, like, when we say create a deformer, that can mean so many things to people, especially when you go from working in the software, and it's like your deformers will be, you go to the deformer button, the hammer, then you pick your deformer, and then you do your shapes. But sometimes people don't really know what kind of shape or what kind of handles to create, or should it be an envelope? Should it be a curve? And then when you go to a studio, sometimes that studio has tools that will set up the deformers for you in a very specific way that they need for, script purposes or for whatever reason. But so when you say create a deformer, which happens all the time with supervisors, they're going to say, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. So the person that's hearing that information, if they're not used to some tools, they might go about it in a completely different way.
Yes.
So you can do things, there's so many ways to do things wrong versus to do it right. And so with surfing, I'm like, there's been so many times when I've just shot through the waves, and then on the other side of the wave, there's rapids. So it's kind of scary the first time you see it, and you have to you really have to go into that letting go of that fear of, is that rapid going to get me? Which I'm not going to say I came close to drowning at all, but like I've definitely bailed and gotten held under by a wave, and there's the small wave, and then there's the big wave, and I don't go to the big wave without I actually wear a life vest, because the rapids and the wave is that big wave can be very scary. And the first time I went out there without a guide, I bailed like 3 times in a row, and I just got like lungfuls of water. And it's just a very humbling experience to remember. It's literally, the learning process for surfing is inch by inch. And it's, you think the instruction is like, pop up. You want to pop up. You just want to pop up. And I asked that question because I'm kind of getting to that spot where I'm learning to pop up. And on ground, I can pop up, but on the wave, I can't pop up yet. And that question came up, and they're just like, yeah, you just pop up. But when I looked into it online to practice on the ground, the step that they were missing was you have to get your foot planted at the back of your wave.
Okay.
Not the back of your wave, at the back of your board. You plant your foot first. There's like a little ledge. And so you plant your foot, and then you can pop up. Like I was missing that step while I was in the wave. So I was constantly, I bodyboard most of the time, and like I get on my knees, and I'm like just starting to get up. But if I get up too fast, I'm going to fall over. So it's like, it's literally inch by inch. First inch is getting your foot in place and every time you do something, another complication comes through. So now I can place my back foot, but now I'm struggling with the water hits my leg. Right. So now the water's pushing me in a direction that I don't want to go. So now I have to learn to get my leg there, and then I have to counterbalance a certain way, and then I can start popping up. And that's kind of where I'm at in the process. I'm like fighting this wave. And I find this to be very similar with learning animation, because I meet so many people that get frustrated with the process, and I totally understand. That. And I'm trying to figure out like how, like, that's probably the number one thing that I want to help people with, is like, you got to get over that frustration of learning. Yeah. Because that's what stops you. And if I get afraid of that wave, that's going to stop me. It's the same frustration. So you got to find the fun, even in the small setting the handles of deformers.
I was talking to Chris Cartlett, shout out to my good friend and one of the main illustrators I work with, where I was teaching him harmony, and I was showing him a demo one time, and something kept not working. And Chris will constantly say something like, now you know how I feel. So it's like, in the idea of getting that, one of the biggest frustrations that I run into, and it's my specialty, of course, is always working with beginners, like where I was telling like AJ and Mech about this. Mech or Mel. By the way, Mariev, and I cannot remember. I don't know how to pronounce either one.
LaSalle or Sartran.
Thank you. I was talking with Chartrand, Maria Chartrand, and I think she was sitting over my shoulder. Uh, I love Mac for this, and it was hilarious. The first time that the new here's your outline, here are the lessons we're going to do. It was the first time that when Toon Boom started doing their classes, and I was going to be doing one, and I said, I have no idea why. I'm just really nervous about teaching because I'd done a lot of trainings for Toon Boom before, but this is like this new thing, and I was like, I don't know why I'm so anxious and nervous. And Mac, God love her, she was like, Tony, you'll be fine. You got this. You know, I'll sit in with you to make you feel more comfortable. I'm thinking like, I'm sorry. How is you sitting here going to make me more comfortable? I'm thinking like,
I
I'm like,
I do remember that. I was working for Toon Boom at that time.
I was like, are you kidding me right now? And it's like, but yeah. Anyway, what was cool is, and it's an exercise I use to this day when I'll say, hey, how many people ever use the program? I'm like, oh, I'm just opening it. Great. Okay, it's 9:15 in the morning right now, and by 10:15, you're going to have your first animation. And just teaching them that it's a little thing of like drawing a dot and just kind of going frame by frame and just having a dot go from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen. Mm-hmm. But getting them to do that, and what I call it's, especially for teachers, creating that moment of wow, that holy crap, I actually did this. And then it stops the software from being so intimidating, because especially if you're just coming from Adobe products, and then all of a sudden you look at Toon Boom and like there's so many different buttons and things everywhere. And what is this for? And what is this for? It's like, yeah, don't worry about that. We're just going to wear the paintbrush right now. It's like that's what we're using. That's it. But yeah, just to be able to get to that point and not get way out there in the waves, and you're just like, help. So the cool part is there is no drown button. I think
you can drown in a network.
It was like what is it? What is
the
it?
Network.
No, Node, or is it Node salad? It's like where all the
I call it spaghetti.
Yes.
The first time I saw a Russian network, I was like, what?
Oh, wow.
I was like, this is how they do things in Russia? Okay.
It's like I was watching, oh my gosh, is it Art Zouza? And note to self, I'll see if I can pop up their link. But he had this really beautiful way of doing of planting feet with deformers, and it was just this really cool style. But there are two things. One, his node view. And if you're ever watching this, sir, one, love you, have nothing but respect for you. But it was like the node view was messy. And so I'm trying to watch that. And I'm watching it on YouTube. And it was also in Spanish. So it's like,
it works.
Yes, it's like,
it works for the person that makes it.
Yes.
But when it's like, that's one of the things that you have to train people when you get into like working for yourself or hobbying like for yourself and doing it for fun versus professional, is you have to pass your scene to so many people that your network has to be so spick and span that the next 5 people need to open up that scene and know what's going on. And for rigging, especially, that's we set the stage because we know it's like more chaos every layer that you get through. It's so by the time it gets to comp and effects, they're like struggling through the scenes. But in moments like that, it's hard when you're looking at a messy network, but when you're looking at a complex network, just to break it down, like it's the same thing as the inch by inch. Like, don't look at the whole network, just look at this one chunk that you have to focus on. I'm literally doing that with hair right now. There's this new trend with like very texture hair, which is really cool, but it's very difficult to get a rig to like rotate and kind of keep that texture flowing so it doesn't look like every piece is jarring. I'm literally and it's an asymmetrical bob with bangs, with some very curly curls. And I've deactivated everything, and I'm just like, let's make sure this one piece just rotates well around the head, and then next. And that's the only way I can get through it. Because if I look at the whole hair as one, I just don't see it. I just see this big blob.
I am literally working on, I saw a young lady whose name escapes me currently, but I saw what she was doing as far as textured hair. She was building brushes for in Procreate. And I was like, oh my gosh, that looks incredible.
Mm.
And I've been playing around with just building out, trying to figure out to borrow from what they're doing, but use it in Toon Boom, building out a texture brush. And then, of course, there is that thing coming in later going, okay, but how are you going to animate this? How is that going to work? And then also meet my need for how do we make this as simple as possible? It's like,
Yeah.
what is it? I was looking at, without pulling this up, and if you built this, my apologies. So I'm not attacking you. So
I never see it as an attack. Don't worry.
So one of the training things I was looking at, because I always get the training materials from Toon Boom, and I'm like, okay, this is really, really cool. And I'm always going, hey guys, I get that the software is awesome, but we have to ease them into the awesome and stop scaring people with rigs. And so I first saw, I want to say it was the Yeti.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that, and I saw it from just looking at it, and I said, holy crap, they actually listened to me and built a simple rig. Mm-hmm. And then I went into the node view. I was like, God dang it. It's like, because when you look at the Yeti, it looks like this very, very simple little character. And I was like, wait, did you he has a deformer on the tuft of the hair on his chest? Are you okay? But yeah, I was like, and I was thinking about that recently, like, I'm going to have to do, I know they have the Yeti. Tony's going to have to build out a Bigfoot, but a Bigfoot that is beginner friendly. But still, it's like, how do you build it? Not necessarily building something on the timeline or building it for essentials or advanced, but still building it with deformers and curve or envelope deformers, but building it in a way that's still approachable, whether it's for beginners or beginners, teachers, high schoolers, and things like that. So just a thought. But yeah, I remember the first time I looked at that, and I always push back. I'll go like, you want me to show the arm, but if I show them the arm, it's from a teaching standpoint. Your students are always going to go, hey, what's this? What does this do? What about this? And it's like, they're like so deep into, what was it? I forgot, what is it called? It's the auto patch cross thingy, or
it's got so many names. You can call it an X network, I call it the seamless limb, X network, cross network. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I know what you mean though.
But yeah, the first time in like where they're saying, well, show them this arm, and I'm going to show them a more basic arm first and show them how that arm is put together, just the general part. Then we'll introduce why this other one is better. It's like, but to actually show, oh, by the way, here not only the cable view, but here are these cables that are crossing over each other. It's like, that's where it gets a little, I don't know.
It can become tricky. Those cross networks. When I worked on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, that was the first time that I started to see that technology, and that was like a huge advancement in the technology. And I should say that between that time and now, Harmony and cartoons have like quadrupled in advancement and technology. Like I would say I think this comes back to like the bugs. Like we don't have as many Harmony bugs. Right. In the last 5 or 6 years, the technology has advanced so much in cartoons and like people's processes and like adding deformers to everything. And like people that are on that in that snowball already. The momentum is there and it's going, and the cartoons are always looking to innovate and create new things. Like look at the Spider-Verse, right? Like
Yes.
now everybody's going to try to copy the Spider-Verse. When I was working at Toon Boom, it was that movie, the Christmas movie that was so beautiful. Klaus, everybody wanted to copy Klaus. And so like these like little innovations. But when I worked on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, that was the first time we were doing those cross networks. And this always comes from experience, always comes from hindsight. And I think simplicity is so hard to get to, but it's what you're always aiming for. You're aiming for simpler. And so when we got to these rigs and we were learning how to do these cross networks, and we just had like a day or two of like explanations and like, it's got to do this when it's this, and then it's got to do this when it's in front. And it was basically like, that's all it was, right? Like, how do we create this perfect shape on the outside, but then also making sure that the details on the inside, and that's what gives you the foreshortening effects, right? That's why the cross networks are so awesome. But when we did that, we had a cast, a team of like 7 people. We had a cast of like 9 characters. We had to do the whole, and everybody did their networks a little differently.
Oh, wow.
So this is one of the dangers that you get into when you're working in productions like this. If you don't have the time to set up like a working example, everybody kind of takes the information, they process it their own way, and then they come out with this new version. So for the first season of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, it took us a long time to get all of the rigs into the one simple way that we figured it out, if that makes sense. Like it just took so long for us to once they were built, we had to kind of rebuild them in pieces. The second season, I think we had to overhaul one of the characters. We overhauled one of the characters completely because it was done like, it looked good, but it was done completely different from the other one. And that made it really hard for animators, because now animators are running into different problems on different rigs. So it was like more problems, unexpected problems. So it was very difficult. So getting everybody on the same page for that process was such a task. But it lightened the load for the whole production. It was definitely a challenge, and a learning experience for sure. Those cross networks.
Two things I want to think about with respect to that. One, it makes me think of when you get an idea of like for a character rig and say, okay, yes, this is how we want it to go. Then definitely saving out a blank template. So if for an example, if we're doing, I don't know, the Jetsons, we get George Jetson built. It's like, cool, that works, awesome. Save out a blank template and pass that off so we can actually build the rest of the family with that. The family or the robots, because they're still going to be following that same thing.
Maybe not the robots.
No, but maybe robots would be different.
If you want to use Jetsons as an example, let's do it. Jetsons, if you're going to use the dad, human templates. Robots, probably. I don't know if you'd be able to template a robot.
Okay.
Sometimes depending on unless you're going to use the same robot over and over and over again and just change the colors or like add a couple things, but your robots, they're if you think about R2D2 versus the other one.
Yeah.
C3PO, thank you.
The other one.
I love Star Wars. I do. But like you couldn't template those two, right? That's a thing. Like that's one way you'd have to look at it. Yeah, it'd be difficult to template robots, but humans, yeah, for sure.
Okay. The other thing was what I do teach, especially because I'm normally teaching that one of the fundamentals or beginning classes, is once we do get into the node view, it's like, okay, let's do some node view etiquette here. Yes, everyone's going to rig differently. However, if these two pegs have the same pivot points, then they should be lined up perfectly. If this,
did I teach you this?
Huh?
Did I teach you this?
I don't know why.
That's one of my. Why would you have them lined up vertically?
Yeah, because you actually like glancing at it first, just glancing at it, oh wow, they actually say the same thing. Now, one thing you did teach me this for a fact I know. I had built out this the stick dude rig. And I said, yeah, I show this to even beginners. I'm like, because even though there's not a quote unquote rigging a full thing, I think they should know how to do this. And I said, what do you think of this? And you're like, yeah, that's a really good thing, a really cool thing. It's out of order though. And I was like, what? I was like, it's like, no, there is an order. Like you have the head that's way over here, and because we're looking at the way the node view is set up, and then where the backdrops were, there's a certain order to it. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Let me work on that. So added that into the lesson. But yeah, like what is the other thing? The cutter.
Reading a book.
It's like, what is it? Cutter tool versus cutter node. And I love you, Toon Boom. Come up with a different name. So the idea of making sure that the cutter node is under whatever it's cutting. And just like just little things like that. Or
we're visual creatures, and that order, like I've said, like that chaos in that network can grow so quickly, so fast that you don't even recognize it. That those little rules, those tiny little rules are there for a reason, and they just help so much. And they help on a subconscious level that you don't recognize. That's the thing. A lot of those little tweaks, totally subconscious, but they let you go that extra mile. I think that's the hardest part, is trying to get people to recognize that those little tweaks are just, you're not going to notice it, but they're going to help you in the long run. So
yeah, if you have a second, I'm going to, because it seems weird, and to the people who have no idea about Toon Boom software, and then maybe if you do, you have like, dude, what are they even talking about? I'm going to jump to my screen if you have a moment.
Sure.
And do this random thingy. So semi-random. Go. This is what I was talking about earlier.
Oh yeah, I love this.
And one shout out to where am I hiding these little things? Give me 1 second. Shout out to Von Klichka for loaning me this illustration. One, the illustration is incredible, done in Illustrator. So it's this one solid object. But if I were going to do, let's say, dude's arm here, let me cheat this a little bit. I would do, where's that at? Drawing, yes. Turn on my light table so I can see what the hell I'm doing a little bit better. This arm, there's like the sleeve, arm 1, 2, 3, 4, hand. So literally, I would probably call you arm 1.
What's this character going to do?
What is he going to do? Actually, he's sitting down, the picture, he's sitting on the toilet. These are his pants. And there are
the
rats. There are rats that are coming up. So he's just like, ah. So it's supposed to be kind of like that.
Okay, so this is the movement?
Yeah.
I'm scared. Okay.
So
this is almost what it looks like when I pop off my surfboard and have to cover my head to save my life.
So I'm going to make out a couple of little things here, and I hate, Lindsay, you're probably kicking me for doing this, but I'm doing these, adding these while I'm on the timeline instead of in the node view.
Oh, no, it's fine.
I think there was 4. Did I say 1? Say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. Cool.
So you're going to break the arm into 4 pieces?
Yes.
Instead of the regular 2 pieces. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And I guess I'll do the hand. Let's call it something complicated like hand. Typically, I would probably do like a front and back or something like that. But the idea is, let me grab Mr. Where are you? I'm probably going to use polyline because it'll be easier.
Oh, I don't know how to use a polyline, so I'm impressed.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I
know how to use it. It just doesn't come intuitive to me. I just use rectangles.
I love, if I'm going to use it, I love the line tool more than rectangles.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's the rectangle or line tool or circle. Those are my go-tos. The polyline, I can never, especially when curves get involved, I never know how to, I can never it's always doing the opposite of what I want it to do.
Yes.
I can get that intuitive polyline gestures.
There is a game called the Pen Tool game. Well, so if you actually Google the Pen Tool game, you actually see it. By the way, I'm going from layer to layer, just kind of roughing these out. I am going to be sneaky and kind of bend that just because. Hold down Mr. Option key, Alt on PC to bend, come back in straight to there. Go here. I'm pulling that there-ish. Go there. Great. And close. Thank you. Hand. Oh yeah. Wait, there is another thing before the hand. Duh.
Oh, because the arm is a sleeve. Arm one would be a sleeve.
Yes, exactly. So let me do, we'll call this for the heck of it, arm 6. Head and close, thank you. And so this one's going to go here, here. I'm not redoing this hand. This is like, and if I were, I would probably, just because I would want to be able to actually bend it around and have it, I would probably break up the fingers into their own little shapes. But I am probably ish wrong.
That's a pretty complex rig. If you do that, just so you know, that's pretty complex.
So I should do.
You're breaking things into details like that are, like you're just going that next level of detail. So just so you know, like that's more probably more complex than you are thinking that it's going to be. But anytime you're breaking up a hand into like,
so you think I should do drawing steps instead?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. There's no right way to do it if what it is that you want to do is does that make sense? That what you want to do, like you follow what you want to do because that's going to be the easier way. But if you want to challenge yourself, then go the other way and take the harder path because you're going to learn something there too. So whether you're doing drawing swaps, you'd be practicing your drawings. Or if you do broken up hands, you're practicing rigging and you're practicing animating those details. So either way, it's going to be work. And you get to choose which one you go to. And you might have to do both. That's the thing. You might have to do both to see which one works the best and get you the outcome that you want.
Okay. So I'm going to give myself a different composite. So everyone and their mom is going to be going into the main composite here, the main little group. So we're going to have the arm's going to have its own composite. So, dude, where are your controls? There we are. Control H, same on Mac and PC. Call you something complicated like arm comp. So, so what we're talking about, I can't even remember how we even got here. What we're talking about is, oh yeah, etiquette. So let me do this really quick. Hand is there. Did you actually put these in order? No. 3, 2, sleeve. Yes. Are you about to yell at me? You look like you're sitting on the edge of your seat.
I'm following. No, I'm following. I'm paying very close attention to what you're doing.
Like, yeah. So the funny thing is, keep surrounding myself with people smarter than me. And who know the software way more gooder than I do. So the cool thing about that, like I'm not nervous, like rigging in front of you. No, it's not bothering me at all. So
I would be nervous if I was in your shoes.
Yeah, I'm like that was sarcasm in case you know. Like, hell yes, I'm not. Okay,
this is what I want. I'm happy to watch you rig because I can see that I can see what you're thinking about. I want to tell you what I'm thinking. Can I give you an intuitive tip?
Go ahead.
You've got your hand on your left in your camera screen. Wait, am I doing this right? You've got your hand on your right in your camera screen and your hand on your left in your network. And in this case, I would actually flip your network so that it mimics your arm. So I would actually go, well, I think you've got, so sleeve would be on the far left.
Okay.
Hand would be on the far right. And then you follow this. I even an arm, I always think about a snake. Like it sounds so silly, but our arms are our most flexible parts of our body. You're going to get so much expression. This is why the seamless limbs became so popular. And widely used. The rig that you're creating right now, you don't have to worry about the seams because you don't have lines. Once you don't have lines, you don't have to worry about foreshortening, but you still want to have some sort of intuitive feel to your network. And and then yeah, you want that to be reflected. Again, it's subconscious. You're not even going to notice it. But now if you pass this on to anybody else to animate, they're going to understand it a lot better, and they'll just be able to go with it, and it saves a little bit of time, and that's kind of necessary in the professional level of animation. But now you won't have any of those left-right problems because now your artwork's going to match your network. So that's something that we always try to do.
Okay.
Without anyone even noticing.
Now, the one thing I am going to do I'm going to add pegs to these so we can actually move it. So first up, I'll do Command-Shift-P, give everyone and their mama a peg. But before I go any further, I know that not only is the sleeve going to need it being able to move, but we're also going to need some master pegs here. So for instance, if I move the arm, but I also want the arm and the hand to move, but I also want to have the hand move by itself. So each of these have their own individual pegs, but I'm going to grab everyone except for the hand and add another peg. And this way.
Yeah, there you go. You're thinking about this exactly the right way. Do you mind if I just run and I don't know what my dog needs, but she needs something.
Okay, go ahead. I'll keep talking.
Okay, I'll be right back.
No worries. So what I'm doing is lining these up, and this is what we're talking about, where node view etiquette, meaning these two pegs are lined up so they have the same pivot point. So for the sleeve, I'm going to come up to the top to advanced animation tools, and I can adjust where this pivot is going to be. For the arm, do the same thing here. Move where that pivot is. For this one, going here. And these are pretty much the main pivots as well as their main pegs as well as the master peg. Let's grab this one. Let's go here. And the last but not least, the hand goes here. Now, I haven't added any deformers or anything, so some of the lines are going to break-ish. But the idea that we are going to run into, I'm going to give myself a little more room. I refer to these as my drawings are the main floor, and my pegs are the attic. So let's grab here. I'm going to connect this one here.
Yep.
A little bit higher.
And that's the snake that you're creating right now. That's the snake. So even in an arm, you're creating this, like, the ability to do this, essentially. With more than, my arm has 3 pieces. That arm has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus a sleeve, 6. Yeah. So you're doing it.
So the idea of why the hell do you even do this? Let me grab my transform tool, make sure I've got my peg selection mode. Thank you. So if I click on the hand, I can move the hand like this, press the letter B, go up the hierarchy. Now I can actually move that. Now, if you look right here in the node view, that's what's happening. If I press B again, it goes to this point. So have the ability to move my arm there, press B again, goes there. And let me collapse this on my timeline. Simply press the number 0. Thank you. Let me expand it out a little bit. F5, thank you. So let me, get rid of this keyframe here. I should copy it. F6, sure. Bad habit there. Let's go here. And we'll do another one here. So what I want to do with this initial one, I'll put it back to where it was. The cool thing about using pegs is I can come over here and simply press the letter R. Seriously, dude. Come over here and press the letter R.
Network view.
You're saying network view? Good.
Yeah, you can go select all and hit R.
Really?
This is my favorite way to test.
Oh, okay. This is why I keep you around.
There you go.
So yeah, so that's just a quick little movement there, and I'm angry at that. That was cool. Thank you.
That's literally how I test, because rigs, you should be building rigs in their first view, which usually is the front view, but sometimes it's the quarter front view. Sometimes you don't need a front view. So, but if you're building a rig in a front view, everything's symmetrical. So you want to make sure all your drawings are in place. And so a lot of times what happens, like what can happen is you draw something and then you nudge a peg. And so
Right.
your drawing can shift without you noticing, but like your drawing before you could shift before you even draw it. So what happens is you've drawn your image on a shifted peg because you're not going to notice if a peg gets moved. And so that's a really common thing for new riggers or new animators, new users in the software. So that's the first thing that we always look for is we on the first frame, on the first pose, we go straight to the node view and select all and hit R, and then we see if anything pops. Because if anything pops, it needs to be repositioned, and then you can go on to your next views. So quick little tidbit. But when I remember learning that, my mentor Jen taught me that. Hey,
That is so massively time saving. I can't tell you how many different times that I was like, okay, we got to click here, then click here. It's like, wow. And you call it's so like how long have you been using the software? You're still calling it the network view.
Oh yeah, because it was the network view before it was the node view. So I learned the network view, and then I had to change my language, and that's a harder one for me. It's in my subconscious as the network, but I know that Toon Boom wanted to get a little bit more into like 3D conversations, and so they changed it to the node view. Because it matched the node view in Maya. Mabel, what's the matter?
I'm going to break some joints here.
I'm going to break some joints too. Just kidding. No. Keep being mouthy. She doesn't want her Christmas cookie. Mabel, what? I don't understand what you actually want anymore. Come here. I think she just wants pets, but she won't come near me. Come here. Come here. Just wants attention. She's just being moody.
Like, where are you talking to him? I'm right here.
You're like I like what you're gonna do with this design, and I know that you'll probably add deformers to connect the corners of the like where the elbows. When you get into sharp cornered elbows versus round cornered elbows, the process is a little bit different because you're working with squares instead of rounded objects. Like a lot of times I know if you go back in previous interviews with me, I'll talk about the circle joints. You have to create these little hinges for the arms so that you have perfect rotations. But when you get into characters with sharp edges like this on their elbows, you don't rig like that. You don't want to use a round corner joint because then that puts like round edges on something that should be sharp. There's a reason for that design change or that look. So like you could put in an envelope deformer on the corners, and then you'd be able to make sure that your corners are always connected. It wouldn't necessarily be, it's a similar process, but not quite the same. You actually get a little bit more freedom, I think. You don't have to be as like specific as creating a hinge joint or a circle.
So you when you say on the corners, it's still going to be the full. You go point. You're not talking about just kind of doing on the ends, are you?
No, you want to do point. Yeah, because that's how you would, like if you go to the pose where the arm is totally open, you can see the cracks. And like that could be part of the design, but if you wanted that to be totally smooth and you wanted to keep your rectangles, the points are like you just pull those points and elongate them at those poses and make sure there's no like that one's got a double, you got a double elbow. Like adding a 4-point deformer to all those rectangles would allow you to close up those corners so that you have perfect edges.
Okay. So let me make sure that I think this is at the got me doing this now. So yes, that's at the relaxed point. So if I went in here and in theory, which one was I looking at? That one, yes. I would do click. This is the envelope deformer. Click here on the edge. Come up here, click.
Oh, wait, you got your, the bone deformer. You gotta change that.
Thank you.
I always make that mistake. I always forget to set my envelope deformer. I have to redo it.
Why is I not doing that? I was like, okay, cool.
Envelope deformer for like 95% of anything. I use my envelope deformer for everything.
Okay.
Even if I'm just making a curve, I think that's such a supreme deformer.
Okay. So I have that deformer now. In theory, when I go, where's that? I think it's here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So here.
Yeah. So now you can
take that and connect it.
Yeah, and I know you're saving time right now by not tracing the deformer completely, but it would work perfectly if you did. It would be such an easy way to fix, and you can fix the bottom section too, where the 2 points overlap, and you get this little.
Okay.
We're always looking at joints. Like professionals are always looking at joints. I'm doing a demo reel workshop. I've been doing demo reel workshops, and it's basically like you put your demo reel in front of professionals and you get feedback on what your work looks like when studios are looking at your work. And so you can kind of go in and fix your animation. And this is stuff that we're looking for all the time, like an animation to make a television cartoon. The joints are so important, how they match up and how they look. I think it's a very easy detail to overlook or overthink or underthink, I guess, when you're learning about a process. But when you are applying to get into to work into television, I would say that a lot of the notes will come back, and it's like fix your elbows, fix your joints, make sure you're going back and looking, and it's really just micro movements with the deformers that will bring out your animation the next fold. But you do have to learn to see those details that the professionals are looking at or looking for. There you go. Yeah, and now your connections and you do that for every frame and every pose, and your connections are nearly perfect.
Like I can probably do that even at the very beginning there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nice. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. I'm on the right keyframe. God dang it. Okay. So it's like right here.
Yeah, and of course you would have deformers on all those pieces. So yeah, exactly. You can hide all your little mistakes. That's better than sending it to comp.
Love it.
You just took care of your own little.
Yeah, this is gonna be nice. Because I was like, when I first, because I said, "Oh my god, it looks so cool! It would be cool animated," and then I realized, wait, this is a complex arm here because it's not.
It is a complex arm. Yep.
Not upper, lower hand, like, and then throw in a sleeve for a good measure. No. We have more.
And if you want to make this more complex, if you wanted to, you can think about it as your sleeve and your upper arm are technically one piece, and then your lower arm is one piece. So I know that your arm's broken into 4 pieces, but technically the top 2 or maybe the top 3 is your upper arm, and the lower arm is your lower arm with your hand. Okay. There's still ways that we could change the network so that you'd animate it differently. Okay. So that would be more complex. So your sleeve and your upper arm would have its own peg before you got to the upper top peg. And then if you wanted to include one of those middle sections of the arms on the upper or lower arm, you would create another peg and connect it before you connect it to the snake. The snake is like all those pegs at the very top, like they're They're like I like to think of it as waterfalls. So like cascading down that little edge. That's the snake. That's what's going to give you that nice fluid movement. But then it's the way that you network in the middle. That's what's going to give you the nuances that would be considered like upper arm versus lower arm versus hand. Because a hand, right now, you just got one drawing. But if you wanted to break it up with your fingers, you're going to have the palm and then you're going to have 5 fingers. So now your hand is 6 pieces. And if you wanted to do your fingers in the same way, now your hand is 12 pieces. Is that math right? 11 pieces?
I think I'm going to do, looking back at this, is like, I would probably use the polyline or the pen tool and then use my width pencil editor and kind of do like, so I can go point, and kind of, and make him do peace signs or okay, and then come back in and thicken out the line or something like that. So I think that's where I'm going to go. So it would be better than me trying to, what's that word I'm looking for? Better than me trying to break everything up into its own little piece there. But yeah, I think, for example, I'll say this and then we'll get ready to wrap up. I would let me grab a color. I know y'all are always yelling at me about not getting rid of my original colors, but here we go. I would go click, click, click.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm going to, come here, dude. Mr. Pencil Editor, thank you. Well, not you.
Oh, the thickness, the pencil editor. It is the pencil editor.
Mm-hmm. Let me cut you and put you on a different layer so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so yes, use the pencil editor. Really?
Well, you're grabbing the wrong one. That's the one. Yeah, the shortcut for it is 8.
So
yeah.
I can come in here.
Change your red color to blue, and those lines will show up a little bit better in your camera. These are such little things. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, duh.
There it is. Yeah, you learn these things because you just do it so often. I also have a negative feeling to the color of red.
You have a negative feeling to the color red. I like that tracks.
It's a very strong color. There you go. Yeah, and again, like this is coming down to, there's so many ways to do things in Harmony, and then if you just round out those edges.
I literally just almost shoot, hold on, shift, damn it.
Just grab it. You can grab your line and change it in your pencil editor options, and then it'll do that. Well, I guess you don't want to do it at the edge.
Because I didn't want to do any. I wanted it flat on this one. I literally just turned those off.
Yeah, and I didn't think about this, but this is actually a really good way to also redraw your fingers and your hands, because then you're just using.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
contour points instead of, and you can still get a little variation using those the thickness, the pencil editor tool. Yeah.
So now
you just created a complex hand, but you simplified it. So that's the skill. That's a skill. It's a very good skill to have. We undervalue these things, I think. As artists, we undervalue what we can do so easily. But I'm impressed.
Yeah, this is a little fun stuff.
Yeah. And then if it's the same principle as a rounded limb. So if you add the same round edge to the other arm, you won't break as easily when you bend your finger.
Okay.
So if you go to the bottom part of the finger and round off that middle edge, then when you bend that finger, you should always have that nice connection, that smooth connection, or at least smoother. You'll probably have some lumps and bumps because when you're working with circles, it has to be perfect.
Right.
But it can be pretty accurate. And
honestly, this is one of the things, and to shout out to Vaughn, this is one of the things that attracted me, because it was so many sharp edges. And I'm going, ooh, I want to mess with that. That's kind of cool. Yeah. And when you get in, this is play, right? Like right now you're playing in the software, and this is so important for people to do, and like not be afraid to make a mistake. Or even if you are afraid to make a mistake, you just go in and delete it and start it over again.
If you were following along to what we were saying and you wanted to try to build that hand in the one way, I had one student one time. She was learning rigging. She was probably like 3 days in. She was probably 3 days into learning rigging for the first time. And by the end of the week, she had built a hand for fun. And I was like blown away because one, nobody has ever tried to do that so quickly. Like that's always something that people aspire to try to do.
Exactly.
And she did it. And it was so like, how did you just learned what a cutter was? Like, how did you you didn't know what a cutter was 2 days ago. How did you just figure this out? It's very rare that people pick it up that fast. So there's definitely people out there, but usually you have to play around, make a whole bunch of mistakes, try it again, do it again. It's like a lottery ticket, right? If you buy one lottery ticket hoping to change your life, chances are that lottery ticket is not going to be the one that gets you there. So you have to buy all the lottery tickets on a weekly basis.
Right.
And then you get the lucky winner. You gotta get in there, scratch those tickets. But in this case, you're just practicing animation and 20 minutes a day. I think you asked me that question last time. What would you do if you had 20 minutes a day? And I'm not in the headspace to learn how to animate, but surfing. Sometimes it takes me 30 to 40 minutes to drive out to the wave because of traffic. It's only 10 minutes away. And sometimes I sit in traffic for 30, 40 minutes and I don't even catch a wave or I shoot through it and I drowned. And I just have to keep going back.
There's a guy, Myron Golden, I believe, and he was talking about the idea of flipping a coin. He was flipping a coin to there's so many chances if you flip the coin to get to heads. And he said, so I want to study about that. And I'm not studying how to get the coin to flip to heads. I'm studying how to flip the coin faster. Because the more time you flip it, the more chances you're going to have. And it's just like, dang,
that's a great.
I was like, yeah, it was kind of one of those, he says stuff and you're just like, damn, that makes sense. Okay. So just kind of getting in there, and the more you work on it, I'm still learning this, and I'm also still trying to teach my kid at the same time. So when we have those little moments of like, well, I'm not getting this. Okay. How much time have you spent on it? It's like, got to look at how much time you spent on it. You know this very well because you spent.
Hard question.
So yeah.
That's a hard one too. You have to reflect and be honest with yourself. And that's a hard part of learning. Sometimes you're only in there for 5 minutes and you're frustrated and you give up. And that's going to get you there. That's going to keep you in that frustration zone. You kind of have to, I think that's a big part of falling in love with the process, like just detaching from the outcome. And that's the hardest part when you are learning something, because you want to be good right away. It takes a lot of patience.
Patience and learning something new.
Mm-hmm. I have a lot of friends right now that are practicing because this is a weird time in animation. There's not everybody's working right now.
Right.
And so there's a lot of people that are off and they're learning new skills and they're learning 3D animation or they're practicing traditional animation. I've got a friend who's learning how to draw diamonds. She's just drawing diamonds just to practice like the Copic markers and like the little faucets. When she told me that, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. I can't imagine trying to draw a diamond. And when I looked at the page, I was like, yeah, you're really getting into the details of a diamond. And I was like, okay, now that I see it, I get it. So it takes a lot of work.
I'm curious on something because it not getting there on your first try. So I'm going to throw you a curveball. It's kind of like eating vegetables or something. You're not going to like them maybe the first time. You have any vegetable stories you want to share?
Oh man, that's literally it. You nailed it. You're a parent. You get it. So yeah, I'm starting a training collective, an animation training educational collective. I know that's a mouthful. I'm still working on that, but it's called Eat Your Peas. And that's exactly what it is. During the pandemic, I had to learn how to eat my peas because I did not grow up liking peas. It's still a little bit debatable, but on good days, I'm like, I could turn these peas into ice cream and I bet it would be delicious. And on bad days, I'm like, I'm just going to throw these peas into this food and I'm just going to eat it. I'm going to get through it. But that's exactly it. Like you kind of have to learn how to eat your peas. Like you have to learn how to practice. You have to learn to enjoy it. You kind of have to learn to get through that struggle. And I'm always thinking about my friends' kids and them putting vegetables in front of them for the first time. Like nobody wants to eat vegetables when you've been eating candy or chocolate, like peas, especially. They pop in your mouth. They're disgusting. But they are so good for you. and you have to really put a lot more focus and emphasis on eating those vegetables instead of those candies. You don't want your teeth to rot in the same way that we don't want your teeth to rot when you're eating the candy all the time. We want you to practice your animation. So the collective is really a place where you can come and practice with a purpose. That's what I've been calling it. And it's a mouthful of peas.
Love it.
You can play, you can find purpose, you can practice. What am I missing? I'm missing one. And it gives you pride. It makes you proud of something. It's definitely a space that I'm really proud of. Right now it's a Discord channel, and we will be expanding in January into something that's a little bit more of a monthly skill sharing, knowledge sharing, but at a professional level. So we're really hoping to put all those good things into the world. And if you're practicing animation and you want to get to that level, you want to get to that next level, you can come and you can actually submit your work for review, and it's almost like feedback on demand, but it'll be a little bit, won't be on demand. It won't be instant, but we're getting there.
Nice.
Yeah, really excited about it. Mm-hmm.
I think that is going to be incredible. Yeah, and I'm a little giddy about it myself. That, and I got to pick your brain about doing Discord things anyway. So,
right now it's a sign up, so I'll be giving you the link. There is a form you can sign up, and we'll keep you in the loop for January. I think things are going to start to go on sale in December, and then you'll be able to choose. The goal is to keep it affordable. That's the number one goal. So it's going to be a little bit of a different type of setup. I think that comes from all my experience in training and like talking to people and like learning how they learn, and trying to create an environment that helps the learner instead of necessarily the person who's teaching. So this is an environment that is focusing on the learner and trying to give the learner the feedback that they need. So I'll be welcoming if you're in school, if you've graduated, if you're trying to, if you're working in animation and they've put you in the rigging department, but you really want to be a background painter, this is a really good spot for you to come and practice painting backgrounds, and then getting the feedback that'll help you get a job, and maybe even network to get a job. Who knows? That has happened. So we want that to happen again.
That is too awesome. Lindsay, this has been awesome as always. One of these days when I do get to Canada, we got to grab a tea, beer, or something. I don't know. Coffee.
We're gonna figure it out for sure. Yeah. Love talking to you, Tony. It's one of the highlights of October.
Oh, thank you. And same to you. I've learned a few things. Like I said, I consider you, especially with respect to rigging, you're one of my mentors. So to actually work in front of you, yeah, no pressure. So I did learn something. I did a great job. Thank you. I'll take that gold star. Mm-hmm. All right. This has been Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, and hanging out with Lindsay Noller. Lindsay, say bye-bye.
Oh, bye, guys. It's so nice chatting with you, Tony. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you. You too.
Enjoy the summit.
Hey, this is Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, and I am hanging out with my friend, my colleague, and I should say Summit veteran, I guess we're going to call it that. So my friend Ginger Chintaviton, I hope I said that correctly.
Yes.
Awesome. So 1, Ginger, who are you? Why are you here? Yada, yada, yada. What do you do?
Who am I? Why am I here? What do I do? Wow, that's so many questions, Tony. But yes, I'm Ginger, and I am an animation director. I currently work at Black Women Animate Studio. It's remote, but we do a lot of work for streaming networks like Hulu, Netflix, all those goodies. And our studio is really good about hiring diverse talents as well too. It is like a big part of our mission. We also have an equity accelerator, which is about all training. And the goal this year is actually to hire at least 200 contractors that are, women of color and giving like different opportunities as well. It's not exclusive though. I mean, as in it's inclusive. So it doesn't mean that we're not going to hire, white folks, guys and stuff as well too. It just means that we work harder to kind of make sure that we can foster the talents that we want to see in the animation industry. And I'm also the executive director of ASIFA South International Animation Society. Ours is headquartered right here in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's an animation society where we build foster community. So that way we can look after the sustainability in our region, as well as we have mixers, monthly mixers that come up every last Wednesday of the month at Kennesaw State University. And we also have our International Animation Day that's coming up at the end of October. And that's free to the public where we screen international animation that we get from other chapters. And we also do a CFAC, our festival that happens every 2 years now. And that's to promote the talent here in Georgia, as well as keep people informed about updated stuff, like you were mentioning, AI and stuff as well too.
Awesome, awesome. I remember the first time I met you, uh, and I was meeting you and the ASIFA staff, and I was just like, there was so much energy, and the vibe was just like, yes, 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 yes. I was like, holy crap. And I think honestly, the first time that I went to the conference that ASIFA that you all handled, that was a large inspiration for me to do the summit in the first place. Just seeing that, oh wow, this is actually possible, and just reaching out and chatting with people and stuff like that. So I don't know if I've ever mentioned that to you, but you all were not just the organization itself, but the energy and vibe I saw there was just like, holy crap, I want to do something like that.
That's fantastic. That's exactly what we want. With the CIFA, it's made out of all volunteers. So we're not trying to like, oh, we own this, we own that. We want more people to be able to have the knowledge and the opportunity to do other stuff. And like you setting up a summit by yourself and whatnot. That's exactly what we want to see more in the community.
Awesome. Yeah. And shout out to all of our volunteers. Is like a lot of the panelists, and I don't want to start calling off names. I'll say in general, some of the people I know for a fact what their day rate is. so when they take time and go, sure, I'll spend the time and talk with you, and they volunteer, that it is such a blessing. So thank you all, and thank you, Ginger. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I got questions. And some of these I've asked before, but I'm curious as to where your head is currently. So I'm going to throw one to you that I don't know if I sent this to you. As far as animators go, what book should be on every animator's shelf?
What books should be on any animator? So if we're talking about specifically animator, because like the animation industry, we have like, illustrators and stuff as well too. Of course, the technical one would be the animation Bible, where of course you learn the 12 principles and stuff. Everybody starts with that particular book. But if it's the animation industry in general, there's a lot. One in particular, I think, was about animation career in LA. I'll send that to you later as well too. I have it on my bookshelf. I just can't remember the exact name, but it's got some really great information. And there is another one that was written by, I think, Joshua Pinkett.
Yes.
As well too. I would suggest that one as well too, because he wrote about his experience, and every book is a little bit different, a little bit about other people's experiences. But the more you read and the more you collect, I think it's fantastic. And it's really recommended for people who want to be in the industry and advance in this path, career path, to also know more than just the technical skills.
I heavily agree. I think every year we have a theme for the summit. The one, it's not an official theme, but it's the word that keeps popping up over and over, is where we're talking about marketing and that being the other side of this, where a lot of people don't understand that. So either marketing, especially, or networking in the industry, where a lot of people think that I did this really cool thing or I put this thing out, or and now everyone's going to be knocking at my door. It's like, there's more. So I think that's kind of that little hidden side of things. Right. My other question would be, uh, in your opinion, and I know I've asked this one, I'm pretty sure I did, but I want to know where it is currently. In your opinion, what genre do we need to see a lot more of in 2D animation?
What genre do we need to see a lot more in 2D animation? I think in general, I anything at this point, mainly because I feel like, the more we see of certain things, like for example, back a while back, it was like adult animation, right? But that also excludes like anime, because anime has a lot of different genres inside of that as well too. But because of the streaming network, it's become way more mainstream accessible, and a lot of people are enjoying movies made out of anime stories as well too. And like look at One Piece, man. I don't even have to say what I want to say about One Piece, because I thought that was like superb the way that it was handled, and it really respected the source material, the fans, Oda Sensei and stuff as well too. What I would like to see on a personal basis would be animation that incorporates more social messages, but in an entertaining way. So it's not one that people will feel like, oh no, it's preaching to me, and I want to see it from international stage. The reason I say this is because a lot of things are from the U.S. point of view, and I think it's fantastic. But I also understand that a lot of other places is really about what the government supports. So it means that if you're from, China, from Thailand, from all these different places, it's a little bit harder to get those kind of really deep, controversial sometimes stories out about your own countries, and that's also dictated by what most people are able to put out or not as well too. And we'll see that more in terms of indie, but I would love to have that, because I feel like what is really important nowadays is that it's about storytelling, and it's about storytelling about why certain things are the way it is today. Like if you see the news about Israel and Palestine today as well too, a lot of people are questioning that might not know the history. I was like, oh, what's going on, what's happening? And sometimes these stories, especially in animation form, is easier to stomach. That's one thing. And then on the other side too is it doesn't point to any specific people, but it can also be used in a telling kind of way where you're able to get those kind of important historical aspects or things out and gain more attention as well too.
I like that. Uh, I can't think of a lot of animations that have pulled it off. I think
Like I think Persepolis or like a
yes,
flea.
that was really good. Yeah,
There's a lot. There's a lot like Breadwinner and stuff as well too. But I think it's just that it's kind of viewed as a certain way. It's viewed like it's a heavy documentary style, or not even documentary, but like it's not viewed in the same veins that you view Pixar or DreamWorks or mainstream
right.
media kind of feel as well too. So I feel like in that perspective, I would like to see more of those kind of narration, but also in the storytelling way that it isn't just again Western build perspective, but also able to have some like different tones as well.
I like that. I think you even saying that made me think of this is again the Mark makes fun of me because I bring people on and I ask them questions that I want to hear the answers to, but I think everyone else wants to hear too. But like you said that, it's like, oh, I just gave me a great idea. So one genre, and I can't remember if someone mentioned this or not, but there's no westerns. Not really. So it's ooh, how cool would that be? And approaching it from a different standpoint. I also like the idea of social messages. The one of my favorite classic, I guess we'll call it classic, is based off of the Dr. Seuss book, the Butter Battle book. I love the book, and then also the animation was freaking brilliant. And they're talking about, of course, the Cold War era, and without it being, like as you say, preachy. I still my preference is still the ones where you're watching stuff and you don't catch where they're going until almost the end. You're like, wait a minute, I see what you did there. It's like, so it's kind of cool.
Like even Grave of the Fireflies, that's one of my favorite all time.
I was trying not to mention that one. I've watched it once and I owned it, so I had to actually hand it off to someone. It was like, how many funny things do I need to watch after this? That is it's beautiful, but oh my gosh, it was heartbreaking watching that stuff.
And it's hard in a way because, like you mentioned, like, why do I want to see more perspective? Because one animation could come out and, it could be about two countries. And one country will say it's like this, and the other country's like, no, that's not the way it is. Yes. I don't see it from this perspective. That kind of communication, like if the least there is, people look to a certain animation for representation, and they'll be like, oh, this is how this country is like. This is how this historical aspect is like. This is how this issue is like. But the more we see of it, the more voices you kind of hear as well.
There was a recent movie, and I'm not going to mention the name of the movie because I don't believe in promoting things that I don't believe in, so I don't even mention my name. But I'll say this: there was a Hollywood movie that it was bringing forth. It was a historical event that actually happened with people of color, and unfortunately, the director even said this, that they introduced a white savior into the story. This person did not exist in real life. And they said they did that just to attract white audiences, which I'm thinking, like, personally, if I were white, I'd even be offended going, you're basically saying we're not interested unless there's someone white in it. But I remember hearing that and it was just like, really? Really? That's what we're doing? So it's the idea of like, depending on who's telling, quote unquote, your story, it's going to have that slant or bend to it. And it's like, I want to hear somebody else's side. Like, how do I feel really? So.
And I think it's very anecdotal. This is just my opinion, but I feel like sometimes, you look at a movie, especially mainstream, and you think that, oh, this isn't doing well because ABC, but it's not. It's like sometimes you're trying to do it at a way where it's kind of shallow. So therefore, it's like maybe you're not reaching the audience you want. Maybe it's not getting the impact you want because of, not the same reasons that you usually think it would be.
Excellent. Right. Hold on. I'm going to look at my cheat sheet really quick and get that next question. I do know one I can throw your direction. So let's talk about the let's talk about the Skynet elephant in the room. Your thoughts on AI and its effect, if any, on the art and animation community?
Oh, this is one of my favorite topics to talk about right now. And we could go on for hours, but I'll definitely give you a shortened version of this because even with the CIFA South, we're working on having a creative leadership roundtable on this particular subject as well, too. And I think, it would be very naive for me to say that, oh, it's not impact anything because I know it does. Is like, let's put it out there in a thing where, like, do I think there's an effect with AI tools and platform on the animation and art industry? Of course. This is not even a question to begin with. As somebody who's been using a lot of different AI tools, not just only in generative art or, like the arts field, but even to schedule things, edit videos, do all these like social media postings, I've experimented with a lot of different tools and also being involved with SIGGRAPH, a special interest group in computer graphics. There are a lot of tools that were in beta mode that we were able to use back then. But the difference is that now it's a lot easier for the public to access. And when we're talking about, public and mass usage, the regulations are not ready for a lot of different things that are currently occurring right now. I've been following the different trials, with what Carla Ortiz and all these different artists are saying as well too. And I agree that towards what they're trying to ask for, it's like the 3 T's and 1 C. So the 3 T's and 1 C, let's talk about that first, is that the 3 T's is transparency. Is like when AI is being used, we should have a way to know that it's being used, because nobody likes to be bamboozled, like transparency. The other one is also C is for compensation. There's credits, compensation, and then these things are things that we feel should be attached to how it's being done. Because if you look at the database, this is one of the big things in the controversial stuff, is how data is gathered. And, previous to this, it's never been an issue because data has never been used in a way that it is currently now mainstream. And while research, being used in research with open AI and different companies and platforms, it's always been like, okay, maybe this is like a nonprofit way of advancing technology, getting things to, because we need that. We need creativity. We need to advance our technology. But in a way that you look at it is that now it's also been transformed to for-profit. And when you look at the artists that come out and what the main griefs are for a lot of people is that it's indirect competition. So you can now put in people's names and it's their art style that they've used for a very long time and to build a name. And before, we always say, oh, artists, you should have a style if you want to have a brand, because if you don't have a style, then anybody can do whatever they want. But now it turns out that having a style is actually turning around and harming some of these people, because people can now generate things in the style of, and then they don't need to hire these people anymore. They'll just generate something in the style of. And I see this a lot on X. And I see this a lot of different social medias in terms of the general attitude towards how artists are being perceived. There would be like, you don't need a graphic design just anymore. Use this platform to replace this and that. And we're not even talking about the idea of the replacement with just technology, because a lot of people are like, I'm against AI because of this. This is not an AI issue. It's a human issue. It's not because of technology. We've always had these things where, you can get things replicated in China. You can get things like people stealing other people's work and just using it right away. This is about perceived value of the art industry in general, which means that when we have AI coming in, it just makes it faster. It just makes it more easier for people to do that, especially when there's no regulations in place or even ideas of, what art and commercial value or whatnot is. Because at the end of the day, like the artists, when I see in the whole industry right now, is that, there are people who are like, we want to keep artists and we want to use tools to enhance that. And I'm all for that. I'm all for the idea of artists being able to use AI tools and platforms to make their work faster, to incorporate that in. But and some people compare it to the Industrial Revolution. It's like, oh, if you don't get on the train, then, it's your fault. But why do we have to go to that mentality? It's an either or situation, or the idea that, artists are against this tool because of gatekeeping and whatnot. There are so many different reasons for that. And like I said, I love AI tool in general. I love the fact that I can use something to make something else. And right now we're experimenting with a lot of that on our end as well too. But what I don't love is the way that human beings usually are just in general. And that for the fact that if we expect, the government to do something, or we expect that people are going to make right by what we have, that's just not going to happen without people pushing for things. Like the fact when we see the writer strike with how they approach AI as well, saying that, hey, we need to fight for the fact that if somebody's going to use AI training on our tools, our hard work that we've been using for many years, then we need to have some kind of compensation. We need to come with some kind of agreement while we still have the power. This is not even just in the art industry. You can even see in the fast food industry as well too. I went to McDonald's, a couple of months back, and they're like, you have to order at the kiosk. And they're like, you just have to order there. And I was like, what? I can't go to the counter and order? And they're like, no, go order over there. So there's that aspect of, understanding that entry level point, because a lot of people I talk to are a lot of early career folks, and they're very scared too. They're very scared because people are asking for people with a lot of experience. And when you're trying to get to entry level, you have to do jobs that now can be very easily replaced with AI and cost cutting. You can even see the mass layoff that's happening right now. And it's like not just in the animation industries, a lot of different industries, including especially games, where when you look at their languaging, the cost cutting is still about, removing people. So the question is, where are we going with this whole thing? Is who is the benefit? Are the people pushing the regulations? What is in the documentations that they're pushing for? And if we don't have any kind of flashbacks or accountability, that's definitely just going to make it faster and easier for things to just turn over an artist already.
That is wow. I was like, this is why I keep you around. That was awesome. I was like, I'm kind of on that fence of, well, not even a fence. I remember seeing something, oh wow, that really looks cool. The first time I saw some of the stuff happening, and it had this weird little, especially some of the earlier animations, it had this weird little strobing thing, and then it started. People started doing when they're going, hey, you're actually borrowing this person. I'm going, okay, that's weird. And then people are like, hey, you can use AI to help your writing. And because I do a lot of like SEO and things like that, I was just like, I don't know. I don't need Google throwing a strike toward me. And I didn't even mess with that stuff until I found out Google had a tool. It's like, okay, I'll use your tool. But as you said, I love what it does for independent people, where it helps you, like whether it's writing out a thing, like writing out tweets or something like that. But even then, I think, and this is not to get on a high horse, but it's like, I think the first time I started doing it, I would say, I'll say this out loud because it's kind of silly, but I was messing with Bard and I said, can you write a story of Count Dracula and the Three Little Pigs? And so just like reading, I was just kind of playing around. It's like, what can it actually do? But then learning from that, being able to write out almost a paragraph of something and then go, I need you to sum this up or reword this for me. But speaking as a educator, an online educator, I remember trying to get it to do something, and I could look at it and reading what I was reading, I was like, okay, where are you pulling this from? Because that's not me. And different things that they were stating, and they've had this course is this long. I was like, no, I didn't tell you that part. So it's going, I know you're pulling this from somewhere, but where is it from? So I think that's that whole thing of, as you said, the laws they never they can't keep up with technology.
Yeah, like we're talking about like data scraping, data laundering,
Right.
but also the fact that now Google will be able to pull from your emails and stuff as well too. So where is that line between privacy? Because even if you say there's regulations, a lot of business can just be like, I'll pay the fine.
Yes.
It doesn't matter, because it's like, in business sense, it's more worth it for me to break the law if that's a whole different topic, but we're not going to go there. But I feel like the law should be based on percentage instead, where, hey, if like in certain European countries where it's like you're found speeding, you don't pay the same ticket price as everyone else. You pay a percentage of what you earn, what you do, because if we're talking about the law being a deterrent to the way yet you act in society as a whole, then then it's not much of a deterrent if you're saying that because you are rich enough, then you can break the law, and at a mass level scale that has more impact. But to your point, Tony, about like the like using Bard and stuff, like we use Bard and ChatGPT as well too to help us with our social media aspect. And I acknowledge that there is a part of artistry and technical advancements that you have to go into prompt engineering. So one of the things that I see, that the big fight that I feel is a little bit distracting in the conversation is that some people are like, oh, AI art is not art. I was like, in the way that you use it, it can be art in the hands of different people. But I'm not going to go there. My thing is that what is the impact and the effects of the tools on current people and their livelihood? That's where I'm more concerned with currently. And also with the fact that even with generative AI and stuff now, even Midjourney, like Asifa was one of the first people to actually do a small little recording conference on Midjourney in Georgia before like a lot of things became more like out of the beta mode and stuff as well too. And I thought it was a fascinating tool. And it keeps evolving. Like even now they have like in painting where you're able to kind of go in and, circle things and change the prompt yourself so that you have a higher level of control. And you're able to also be more creative with your creative decision. And they're also like creating things where you can keep things more stabilized as well too, where people like, well, if you generate one thing, it's not going to look, the same every time you generate an image. So people are model training, people are like adding all different sorts of tool. It's almost like further along, Midjourney might become Photoshop. But that's my feeling in terms of technology. So the technological aspect of it is, I think, in a way, great. The thing that I don't think is great is the fact that if we look at a lot of different businesses that starts off on different foundations, like, oh, where are you getting your data? Or even when we're talking about stuff like, oh, Crunchyroll and all this stuff, when they started off, were they using legal stuff or not legal stuff? There's no way to kind of work how far back you're going to go, because that's really hard. But the question is, moving forward, what are we going to do to prevent that? And also for the people who are already affected, what are the alleviations? It's just, that's my big concern. And also I think tools like Bard and ChatGPT helps people ask better questions, because now you have to learn about, oh, what do I need to ask? However, it may deter people from answering better questions as well too.
Nice. Okay. It's like I love and hate our conversations, because it's like, oh my gosh, I want to keep talking about this. But I will say this one thing. It's kind of like you said, there's like we've been playing with AI for a while. Like I teach like a lot of Adobe products. And since when they started doing like quote unquote content aware, or Adobe's thing called Sensei. And it's been around for a while. And so people are like, oh, hey, AI is like, it's been around for a minute. Because I remember whenever Adobe would update stuff, I remember early on, and I was mentioning this to someone else, where, I learned Photoshop before it had layers. So watching people, there used to be a technique we had to do to remove red eye from photos.
Oh.
And we learned that technique, and then one of the versions came out, and then they called it the red eye removal tool. And I was like, and I remember this is early in my career, and this is going to sound, I'll just let it fly. This is basically, I was like, they're making our jobs safe for secretaries to do. What the hell is this? Like, there was a skill that we had to learn, and now they're just making it easy. And it's like, I started being worried about it. And then at the same time, it's, okay, I've seen, what is it, later on when you see stuff like when Flash started coming out, and the animation started first coming out, and you look at some of it's like, oh, bless your heart, that's sweet. And then you look at people like, as a matter of fact, I'll even compare myself. What I would animate in, whether it's Flash, Adobe Animate, or even Toon Boom, what I animate versus what Adam Phillips, or hell, even Tony White would animate. They're going to be two different animals, and I think that's also what we start to see, and what we're going to see more of with AI. It's not necessarily the tool, but who's handling it, how they're handling it. So
yeah, I always say it's not going to be AI replacing people; it's people using AI replacing people.
Ooh.
And it's also the fact that in 5-10 years we might not even be having this conversation, because it's so normal to
Right.
the next generation or whatnot. But it's always been the idea of, does the end justify the means? Like you could, like I said, industrial revolution. Right now we won't be like, oh, we're not driving horse carts and stuff anymore. But at that particular point in time, where when they discovered factories, like making shrimps and stuff, from 300 people making shrimps, then they're like, oh, we only need this one machine. Those people impacted are still impacted. You might say it's a casualty, but you don't have to be mean about it. And we don't have to be like, oh, well, sucks to be this or sucks to be that. I was like, where's this attitude coming from? I was like, why are people like trying to be so mean to each other?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, like everybody wants to have an opportunity. Everybody might, like want to do all these different things, but when people's livelihoods are impacted, we need to actually acknowledge that because people hurt.
There's a I'll say that I'll keep saying what there's a what is this in the early days of when drum machines came out. Um this is like as far as music and everything like that. One of my favorite drummers, Omar Hakim, which what is one of those people like if I could ever interview someone, that would be cool. Anyway, so Omar Hakim, like he's played like with Sting and David Bowie and all these other people. But he said when drum machines started coming on the play, he went out and bought one and learned how to program it. So he's like one of the first people to learn that instead of him going, oh man. So I think it's got a whole thing of like, how could I use this? How is it going to work?
Yeah.
How is it going to actually make things better? The fact that one of our lovely sponsors and my extended family, Toon Boom, the fact that we don't. I mean, I guess there's some people that might do this, but the fact that we don't do traditional ink and paint on cells anymore because it's digital, and not even paper. We're doing most people are doing paperless. The fact that that has changed is like this major thing.
Yeah.
Um,
You can't stop evolution. I mean, the change is going to happen, like I said, but you need to be kind. We need to actually understand that human feelings are involved here. Just because you decide to roll over a new technology and stuff doesn't mean that you just disregard people's like 20, 30 years, 40 years of experience that they've accumulated, and you're like, oh, you're too archaic to do something. That's just me.
Coolness. So here's a nice little segue. I'm curious on this. What's stopping animators and artists from creating their own, let's say, employee-owned channel or streaming platform or platforms? What's stopping them, if anything?
Well, I think that's you don't know what you don't know, right? So even in this time right now, I'm prototyping and exploring some content creation. Like I've been doing different stuff on TikTok now. I know a little late to the game, but I when I want to explain certain things, then for me it's about experimenting, succeeding, and then teaching. If you're doing something that's working, then you can tell other people as well too. I feel like for a lot of different artists, number one, when we come out from school and stuff, it's a lot of exploration. There's so many things to learn. Even learning, getting technical of like, how do I even animate? That's already occupied a big space of the mind. Then the second part of it is that, oh, what is the successful career path for an animator? Is okay, go to a studio. So that's this part. But then there's also people who will do stuff on the side. Was like, okay, if I do YouTube stuff or I create my own content, maybe I can get the stuff I want to out there. But also that's a different part of the brain that you're going to have to operate as well too, because a lot of times we look at success and we want to be successful, but we don't always want to put in the work. And the put in the work in this case of is being like, maybe I need to make 100 posts. Maybe I need to make 1,000 posts. Maybe I need to go study, how different people are posting and why they're getting traction as well too. There's that. But for a lot of times, that isn't the brain that we want to put to work as an artist. The brain that we want to put to work as an artist is the creation brain. Yes. Where like, I just want to create stuff. And a lot of it is geared towards what I feel, which is not a bad thing because you could always have a niche audience that want to relate specifically to you. But if you're looking to have like a big following, a lot of times that's a little less niche than most people might expect as well too. Like if you go into, instead of animation, making content about food, right? You have a bigger audience just but in general. Yes. You go to a content creating about like, oh, I just want to collect car pins, like pins that are car shaped. You'll probably have a smaller audience for that as well too. And it might be a successful audience of like, maybe 20, 30 people that like are, your hardcore fans as well too. I feel like that's a success. But to think that reach and that engagement will be the same as someone posting a generic like recipe channel about food, that would be like it's not adding up to the logical terms of just the normal statistics as well. So I definitely always encourage people to create their own content, but you also want to know what you're creating as well too, and what's the purpose. If you're just doing it for fun, great, you don't feel pressured. But I also see people who say, I'm just doing this for fun, but it'll be great if I got like a big following and stuff as well too. Well, that's also work. That's also putting the amount of work. And you'll see that a lot of people can get burnt out because they're like, oh, does that mean I have to post on Instagram 3 times a day and then post on this and that? I'm going to get burnt out. I think it's up to you to work with the resources you have. If you can't post 3 times a day, don't post 3 times a day, but be consistent.
Yes.
So I think that's a big problem about a lot of things. Like even now when I'm talking to some early career folks and they're like, I've been searching for a job for 2 years now and I feel ready to, quit or whatever because I feel like it's not happening for me and I've been using such a long time. I was like, some of the people I know spent 15 years going to this studio, that studio before they got into the studio they wanted to get to. So I think understanding that time relative to what your goal is and where you want to progress and how you're progressing and subjectively, like not subjectively, sorry, objectively analyzing yourself is such a big thing. So it's in the same as any field, not just in the influencer field as well too, where people are like, oh, I want to go somewhere. You know the goal. You know the goal because you can see it as a dream. That vision is so clear.
Right.
But your process to get there is not clear. It's not defined. So now you start like grabbing anything you want to, even though you might be grabbing a balloon that's going exactly the opposite direction of where you want to go. So how's that balloon going to go back unless it's by luck or by chance to where you want to go? So I think that's in terms of, artists creating content. A lot of artists are also creating great content and getting a lot of views, but maybe they don't know how to monetize it. But if their goal is to monetize it, that's a totally different thing than the creation brain as well too. So I feel like a lot of times when we're talking about where do you want to go, you need to know how you're going to get there, and you have to actually do your research and do the stuff instead of just researching. Like do the stuff, prototype, and try it out as well too. And a lot of times when we're looking at now, right, Tony, you have jobs to do. People have bills to pay. So when you have bills to pay, you're going to like, okay, maybe I'll do this job first. That means that's a time away from what you want to do as well. So there's the lack of time. There's a lack of maybe know-how. And there's also the feeling of like, oh, not knowing where to get started. That's a big part of it. And that's also a reason why we're trying to prototype. If we prototype and it works, maybe we'll be able to teach the community.
Love that. And my thing that I am guilty of, if there's anything that I am consistent of, the C word there, is being inconsistent. So it's like, what is it like on my YouTube channel, which I really am. How did they say? I had a review. Someone said, we need to get you doing stuff more consistently so it's not feast or famine. So it's like, if you're going to post once a week, great. If you're going to post 3 times a week, great. If you're going to post once a month, whatever it is, but you have to keep that consistent.
And a lot of times with a lot of social media, people create the content beforehand as well too. So like with us, we create something maybe a year long before we schedule things out to post as well. So when people look at, social media, it's very instant gratification because you're like, wow, this is so cool. But somebody recorded a TikTok, which they take, 10 years to dance? Like 365 days to dance. That took them 365 days to make that one post. For us, then we're like, oh my God, if I do that, that'll be great. But then you quit dancing at day 20. So that'll be like your 20 days I learned how to dance kind of feeling as well too.
Excellent. I'm going to throw a question to you, and because this is something I did not send to you, but I'm curious, and this will be my last question, but I'll see where you go with this. Do most animators or even storyboard artists find work via apps like Fiverr or Upwork, or do they find most of their work via like online trades like, let's say, Georgia Film Commission or anything like that?
Depends. I think it can be a combination of all the ways that are mentioned as well too. Mainly because, the more venues you have, the better. But also some people have learned to master a certain way of doing things. Like, for example, if you ask Mark Simon, he'll have his own way of doing things where he'll be like, oh yeah, I get my jobs through all this, and then now I get endless referrals and stuff. That doesn't always necessarily work the same way as another person. I know some people who get a lot of work from Upwork as well too. And some people who's build a following on Fiverr to be able to do what they want. And I know people who extensively get a lot of their work from going to different events. Like you said, the Georgia Game Development, all these different events, and then they build their own client base as well too. But I think, again, it's about consistency, learning, and consistently learning what works for you and actually diving head in to make that better. Like I have another friend who started her own business, and for her, she's like an animator, motion graphics person. So what she did was that she created a spreadsheet and she cold emailed the businesses in the areas like, this is my reel. If you need any of this work, please message me back. And then like she'll have on that spreadsheet, she'll see the rate of success, and she'll like tailor different emails to different clients, and how often she'll reach out to certain people and stuff like as well. And she's getting consistent, overall stuff as well through that as well. So that's even like a billing and email list and cold calling sometimes works as well too. Even though I wouldn't recommend that for everybody, it's definitely figuring out. And she made like a whole number thing, like statistics kind of thing, because that's the way that it works well for her. Okay. So yeah, so I would say that it's like no matter how you find your job, you just need to figure out what works for you.
Love it. Excellent. Well, Ginger, this has been awesome, as it always is. Thank you. And thank you for being the inspiration that you are, because I see when I see the stuff that you're posting. And by the way, and thank you for sharing every time I would keep posting stuff, because I'm trying not to spam the different groups that I belong to. So whenever I post something about the summit and you share it, I was like, oh, thank you so much.
We would love to share more. If you have something, ahead of time next year as well too. Again, it's always about the bandwidth. We would love to definitely keep sharing. Sometimes I'll be, okay, I see it, I'll share it. And then we're building a resource archive on our ASIFA South website. So we're adding like the different resources we think are great from different people. So if you want to add something on there too, let us know. And once that page goes up, we'll put your resources on.
Awesome. So we're going to sign off. But again, what's coming up? What is it? Animation Day? What are we doing? Cool.
Yes, International Animation Day celebration. So it's going to be at the Plaza Theater, October 29th. And it's free. But you want to pre-register for it first. And there's going to be free popcorn and free soda. We're also going to be inviting some of our board directors out to introduce the ASIFA South, the program. So we would love for people to come out and mix and mingle, because this is an international celebration. It's kind of showing the everybody that that we have an animation industry, and that people can come and meet new folks as well too. So we do that every year, and we take the films that are from international chapters. We take our films that are made in Georgia, and then we send that over as well as an exchange program. So it would be fantastic to kind of see everybody out to celebrate with us.
Awesome. Well, Ginger, thank you again. This has been Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, hanging out with Ginger Chandavidong. And we are going to sign off. Say bye, Ginger.
Bye-bye.
Have you ever wanted to rig characters in Toon Boom Harmony, but the node view scares the crap out of you? Well, I'm hosting a mini workshop that might just be what you're looking for. My name is Tony Ross, and I'm the owner and creator of TonyTeach.com, where we specialize in taking programs that have a steep learning curve and teaching them in a way that's really comfortable for beginners and novices to catch on to. So, on Saturday, October 21st, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm hosting a 3-hour workshop where I'll show you how to rig a simple stick figure in Harmony Premium from scratch. This demo will go over working with the node view, using pegs, and basic parent-child rigging. In addition to this, I'll show you how you can save out a blank rig so you can attach your own artwork to it later. Now, this event is held online, but it is taught live, so you can ask questions during the demo as well as during the Q&A afterwards. Can't make it at that time? No worries. The workshop will be recorded and made available to all who signed up for the workshop. Though this workshop isn't free, it is actually cheaper than my hourly rate. So, this will be the first in a series of workshops, and I'll later be showing more complex things like working with deformers and even master controllers. But I actually want to start teaching people the very basics of working in Harmony Premium and how far you can go down the rabbit hole, which is creating your own animations. Seating is limited, so sign up today. Hope to see you there. Hey, remember that thing that you're going to do, learn, or try if you could ever find the time? Guess what? Even on your busiest day, you have 30 minutes somewhere to spare. You know what else? 30 minutes a day for 30 days is 15 hours. What project could you do, start, or finish in 15 hours? We challenge you to take 30 minutes a day for the next 30 days and find out. 30-30-15. Changing your life 30 minutes at a time. Alrighty, so that is end of part 1. It is now lunchtime, so we're going to sign off for a bit, and we'll be picking back up, after this, I believe, don't quote me. I know we have, I don't know in what order this is because I'm not looking at my list. We have Laren DeJarnett coming up. We also have, I believe, Nancy Beeman that's going to be on today. And I think it's Mike Atneal. So we have 3 other people. And of course, at the end of the day, we are going to be giving away more prizes. We're going to be giving away some Storyboard Pro licenses, as well as we are going to give away a Wacom One, their newest. They just updated that, so we'll be giving that away after lunch. So this has been Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit. This is the end of part 1 for day 4. And we're going to sign off, and I'll see you all back in an hour.